Our next public hearing is regarding, let's make sure I have the right case number.
ZR 1311?
Yeah. So let me borrow the sheet.
1311.
I've got the site plan here. Okay. The next case is ZR 1311. Petitioner Dorshan Martin Associates on behalf of the owner, Corral of Tri-County Inc. The request is to rezone to, originally the request was to rezone to B3 General Business, but the applicant has since amended a rezoning request to B2 per our previous study sessions. The current zoning is OS Office Surface. The master plan is for North Southfield Road sub-area with a local mixed-use potential. Property to the north and the south across Edwards Ave is zoned OS Office Surface. The property to the west across Southfield Road is zoned OS Office Service and B1 Neighborhood Business. The property to the east is zoned RE, single-family residential. The request is to rezone the subject parcel, which measures approximately 2.77 acres, from OS Office Service to B2 Planned Business District in order to provide for greater variety of development options. The request is in conformance with the comprehensive master plan that indicates North Southfield Road sub-area with local mixed-use potential for this parcel as a potential site for local mixed-use redevelopment purposes. After this public hearing has been concluded, we will deal specifically with the special use and site plan.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like the developer to come forward and give a brief description.
Just speak to the rezoning request only. Absolutely.
My name is Sam Dorchin, Dorchin Martin Associates, 29895 Greenfield in Southfield. With regard to this, the request for rezoning, we followed the recommendations of the land use plan, the master plan, and the planners, as well as changing our request from B3 to B2 as brought up in our first study meeting. The owner has agreed. The owner is with me tonight, Kieran Patel. In addition, Larry Weiland, who is a real estate director for the Golden Corral, and we are available for any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. As this is a public hearing, I'd like to open the public portion, the public comment portion of the meeting to anyone who wishes to speak to this particular item. And when you come forward, please state your name and address for the record. You'll have up to 5 minutes to speak. But what I'd like to do, just so that we're not saying the same thing over and over again, is if you agree with someone, simply say, I agree with what I've heard so far from, my neighbor or whatever. Just so that we're not repeating the same things over again. As I said before, we've got a rather extensive public hearing record during our study sessions, and we've recorded those. We've taken notes of what people have said and the issues that have been raised. So we don't need to get into the meat of each individual detail before. Simply state what your concerns are, if you would, and then what we'll do from that, we will then close the public portion of the meeting, and we'll take a lot of those, every concern that you have, we'll make note of it, and then we'll go back and start asking questions back and forth. What we don't want is to have a dialogue between, at this hearing, between members of the community and the developer themselves. Everything is just come through me and through the commission. So having said that, is there anybody that would like to speak to the rezoning of this particular site? so as to accommodate the use of the restaurant.
I've got a question first. In the last meeting, I thought there were some action items for the developers that I misunderstood, and also for Terry, that we're going to get some feedback from for this meeting.
With regard to a traffic,
I believe that those are specific to the site plan issues, and they will be addressed under the site plan portion. But you're free to comment on the rezoning itself at this time.
right?
Okay.
So there's two opportunities for public comment.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody can go?
Okay, go right ahead.
My name is Ari Leibowitz. I represent the ownership of the property to the north, which is an office development known as Woodfield Office Park.
What was your address?
29548 Southfield Road. I was not present at any of the prior study sessions, so I'm not privy to what was discussed at those meetings. Basically, I come from a developer's point of view, so I'm not usually here to comment in contradiction to redevelopments, but being that I have 8 office buildings next door to it, we fortunately or unfortunately weren't burned down when the fire took place and took down the building to the south, which is the subject of this site. We almost got caught by that fire. My concern is the coexistence of such a large restaurant next door to an office environment, and the concerns that come with such use vis-a-vis aromas and odors and parking and so forth. It's not a small restaurant, it's quite a substantial operation, and that's basically my concern. Is the intent of the city is to rezone that entire track from 12 Mile to the shopping center to the north is commercial, or
No. If you turn around, right behind you, see the area that's circled in red? Just that area.
this hearing?
Yeah.
But I'm asking, what's the city's plans with regards to this whole area?
I'll address it after all the questions.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and address that.
So that's one of my questions. So basically, I'm here raising some concerns, being that I am going to be directly impacted by what's happening next door to me.
Thank you very much. Who else was this to?
Quick question, before I go.
Sure.
I see someone at the end of the table. Are you a transcriber?
Yes.
Okay.
She's our secretary.
So previously, the meetings were not transcribed, correct?
No, she's here every meeting. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. At the final hearing, we call our public hearing. They're all technically public hearings.
Okay.
But at what we call a public hearing, we have the entire hearing recorded,
Okay.
and minutes are prepared. During the study sessions, we have minutes prepared as well. They are less detailed, and they are not recorded.
I see.
Okay? They go through the items that have been raised and the resolutions as they go through.
Okay.
So every month, when we have our final meeting every month, same thing with the city council, every month, when they have their meetings, they are recorded so that the community can come back and hear
Okay.
specifically the items.
Okay, so I've been here for the 3 sessions that we've had, 2 prior to now. So I do want to summarize what I've shared with the commission, and also confirmation of conversations that I've had with residents. And at the last meeting, I had signatures from 18 residents, all of whom oppose the rezoning of that particular tract of land. And what I shared with them was the pictures that have been, displayed at the meetings that identify Southfield Road and talk about the multi-use. And I guess the big objection among residents, and, I just said, well, if you look at Southfield Road, that tract of land, along with those other 2 office buildings, back up to our residential area. And if you follow the route from 12 miles to 13 miles, I'm sorry, my name is Diane Fezier Thompson at 17041 Edwards, and I didn't begin with that. But the tract of land that Golden Corral wants to place a restaurant in, that tract of land is currently zoned for medical office use, and that's the quietest portion of Southfield Road that backs to a residential area. And we strongly believe, as an almost 20-year resident of Edwards Avenue, that was by design, that the previous planner designed that with that intent in mind, that those people in that neighborhood all have very large lots, an acre or more. We all enjoy the tranquility of our properties on our decks in the evenings and on the weekends. And those times are what the developer identified as his busiest time. After 4 p.m. in the evening, and then he's open 7 a.m. until very late in the evening on Saturdays and Sundays. That's when our families are enjoying their property. And we see that as a huge conflict with this restaurant being in that particular area. So last week I had 18 signatures. This week we have, I believe, 44 total signatures. The sentiments were shared by residents along Edwards Avenue, along Lathrop Boulevard. The primary reasons being the noise. As many of you know, we already have a traffic problem on Edwards Avenue from Lathrop onto Southfield Road. It's a one-way street. Residents, people from everywhere come down that one-way street continuously the wrong way. It's always an accident waiting to happen. I've talked about the officers who have parked in my driveway because the speeding is so bad on Edwards Avenue. We believe the traffic, that will exacerbate an existing traffic problem that we have on Edwards Avenue. He identified 177 parking spaces for this restaurant. That's considerable traffic that'll be going into that restaurant, and it all won't be going in off of Southfield Road. We want to continue to enjoy our properties. That's why most of us bought this property there. You have a lot of long-term Southfield residents in that particular area, and it's because of the tranquility of the neighborhood, the large lot sizes. It's a very tranquil, stable neighborhood. We do not have a restaurant with the odors. We don't have rodents running through our neighborhood. We do not have the noise that this restaurant will inherently bring, because we want him to be successful. We want him to be successful in Southfield, but not in this particular neighborhood. We believe it is totally incompatible with our enjoyment of this neighborhood and our residents. So hopefully that summarized my first stance, my second stance, and my conversations with the residents who can be here.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Are there any other persons that want to speak to the rezoning? Yeah.
The last speaker brought, Sam Dorchin Martin. I think I remember where my office is. I thought this discussion was primarily for the rezoning. Hopefully, I'll hear more about the city's feelings about the rezoning, and not to get into the things like the traffic, which we had offered, I think the city offered, to close Edwards. Obviously, the restaurant did not create the problem. Their problem on Edwards has been there for as long as they've been there, as long as I've used it. My building, my office building, is on one of those maps. The upper right-hand corner of the aerial view that's farther up the stage. We've responded to all of the community's objections. them. I'll use up my 5 minutes, but I do want to say that one of the comments at your last hearing about the Lawrence Tech dormitory was how you appreciated the community coming out and expressing their feelings. I also, I'm not naive enough to think that I could come out to and ask for rezoning and site plan approval and not get objections from everyone within a half a mile, sometimes miles. And so, with their objections heard, we responded to all of them. In that packet you have is our response to the noise, to the traffic. We even received a traffic review letter from Dave Wozniak, who's your traffic engineer, who finds our site plan quite acceptable. We did what we could to reduce the traffic, to maintain the traffic on Edwards by not allowing any of them to go to the east. The best way to stop it is to
Through the chair.
close it.
Yes, I'm going to ask, again, it's not appropriate to talk about site plan issues at this time, so I'm going to ask you to defer to the next
Right.
item.
Okay, I'm hoping it gets to the next one.
Okay. And that's why, by the way, that's why I've given some latitude with regard to that issue, because if we don't pass the zoning issue, the second issue is moved. And so, are there any other persons that wish to speak to the zoning? Yes, sir.
Sure. Hi, I'm Billy Parrish. I live at 17550 Edwards Avenue. And as many of you know, my property is right adjacent to where the proposed site is for Golden Corral. So naturally, I have concerns. And at the last meeting, Larry mentioned that he had made an observation from the Co-America building that there were 13 cars traveling down the street in a period of about 30 minutes, I think you said, Larry. And
15 or 17 minutes.
15?
Well, I was
15 minutes?
15
Yeah. For a period of 15 minutes, okay. And he also said that there were only 2 homes that were impacted by the construction. Now, I differ with that conclusion because, first of all, there are 11 homes that are within the 300 feet range that received the actual notification of rezoning. Of those 11 homes, residents in 80% of them are, well, actually, residents in all of them are opposed to it, but residents in 80% of them have signed the letter saying that they're opposed to it, and the other residents have either not been available to sign it yet. There's one residence where 2 of the employees work for the city of Southfield, and they said that for those reasons, because they're a city of it would be a conflict of interest for them to sign, otherwise they would sign. So, without those 2, 100% would be signing. So far, 80% have signed the letter in opposition. That's within the area of directly impacted in the 300. Now, certainly there are people that are on the east side of Lathrop Street that are impacted, and you've heard the voices of some of those folks, and they feel very concerned. And then there are folks who are east of Lathrop Street on Edwards that are concerned, and Diane has brought their concerns to you as well. So, if Larry said that there were 13 cars that traveled down that street, I understand that as Golden Corral has tried to address all the concerns for the traffic. But one question comes to mind: if there are 13 cars in 15 minutes, how many residential streets after 5 get 13 cars traveling on them within 13 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever? And I'd say none. So there are still issues, and those issues will be, as Diane stated, made worse by the construction of Golden Corral there. Now, I don't know. There was some mention, indeed, of a wall being put up there. Now, I don't know what happened with that. We'll hear perhaps about that later. At the last meeting, there were some concerns raised by one of the commission members said that, Golden Corral could address any of the concerns that the residents have after the fact, and Golden Corral agreed to do that. My concern about that position is that, first of all, that represents what is called the bad side of the equation. Remember the old possession is 9/10, once I'm there I can do what I want to do? Well, what about the other expression? Try to close the barn after the horses have gone, it's too late, or it's too little too late, or who listens after the fact? So to say that they will address our concerns after the fact, to me, is not an answer. It's now that the decisions must be made to address those concerns, and this commission has the power to do the right thing for the residents. Now, you heard before that there is a problem with the traffic. I'll tell you that, I told you at one of the meetings that my granddaughter almost got hit by a pickup truck traveling 60 miles an hour, 50 to 60 miles an hour, right past my mailbox. And she would have been dragged all the way to Southfield Road and been totally dead. But,
As opposed to partially dead.
As opposed to partially dead. Instead of just skinless, she'd be dead, totally dead. But even going east to Pierce, there are accidents that occurred. 2 years ago, a lady was killed at that intersection. Just in January, my son's car was broadsided at the intersection of Pierce and Edwards and totaled. So, you know, there are issues that go, that exist.
I probably can't get you concise because you've only got about 30 seconds left.
30 seconds? Okay.
And we want to speak as to the zoning of the use.
Well, in my last time here, I'd like to officially give you the 44 signatures that came from the residents, and for each member, I'd like to give a copy of the cover letter, because I believe...
Can you give those to Terry and he'll get it to
Terry,
her?
can you give copies of the cover letter to all of the members? I gave you copies of the sign. Did you want the originals, or am I supposed to give the originals to the city council?
No, we'll take the originals.
You want the original? Give me back the copies, and I'll give you the originals. These are the originals.
We'll make them part of the...
And can I get the copies? And I need copies.
Yeah, but I'm going to take...
Okay. All right. Good. And now there are plenty of other residents that want to sign it, and they just haven't. We may catch up with them. Right now, I want to go on record again as saying that there are currently 20 restaurant-type facilities between 12-mile and 13-mile road. The nearest number anywhere else is 4 between any mile road. So we are really swamped right now, soon to be 21 with the addition of McDonald's. So we're already saturated between 12 and 13-mile road with the restaurants. And the other thing is that when I looked on Google for the other Golden Corral restaurants, none of them are within what I saw to be about 600 feet of any residential area. This comes right within 300 feet of lots of residents. And so I think that that's the wrong place for Golden Corral to be placed.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sure.
To the chair, a statement was made that I'd like to correct that statement because I know it's directed at me. My question to the,
Well, no, why is it?
because Bill knows was directed at me about closing the barn after the horse is done, whatever. That statement was directed at me, so I'd like to correct that statement because it was incorrect. What I asked him was, if there was a problem that came up, would the restaurant owner respond to the resident and correct it? I never said anything about closing the barn after horse.
Oh, no, that was my statement.
Right,
but I was referring to your statement that
Yeah.
says, will they correct it? And my view is
Okay,
that they're
I
correcting it
want-
after the
yeah.
fact.
I'm not
It
arguing.
may or may not be done
It
after the fact.
that way, so I just wanted to interrupt.
And it wasn't a personal attack. It was just a statement that echoes what you just said, that would they correct it? And they said yes, but my view is that
Right,
after the fact, we may or may not get a correction.
And you stated your view. Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll get to it. I really don't want to kind of go back and forth. I really like to get all of that. I'm taking comments from members of the public. Yeah. Are there any other members of the public who would like to support? What I'd like you to do, because I'm being mindful, just so you know, I'm being mindful that there are going to be some site issues just out of fairness, because if we vote to disapprove the zoning, then there's no side issues that come up. So I'm going to let some sneak in there, but I really want you guys to spend your 5 minutes being succinct, and tell me what your issues are and what you think the resolution is. If that resolution is, I don't think this belongs here, this portion of the meeting, or this item is to the rezoning. We're changing it from the office use to general business use, which would allow a restaurant. So please go ahead, list your name and address for the records, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Tim Franklin. I live at 29200 Lakewood. I've been there for 19 years. The reason I moved there was it was extremely quiet. I have a pool in the backyard, but my wife and I get a chance to go back there in the afternoons without hearing all the noise disturbance. We already have a park at the corner there. We can deal with all the recreation and all the baseball and the soccer events, but that dies off. But when you're talking about putting a restaurant that's going to be continuous from 4 to 10 at night, when I get off at 5, I don't want to hear all that. I want to be relaxed, and that's what I moved here for, and that's what I tend to stay here for. I'm going to speak for most of the residents. Everyone's there when after 6 o'clock, you don't hear anything, not a dime. So that's what we want to continue. We want to keep it just like it is. That's my comment for that.
Thank you so much. Are there any other residents that would like to step forward? And
Excuse me.
okay. Well, you have plenty of time left over, so go right ahead.
You know, it's going to be a lot, bringing a restaurant of that nature, you're going to have a lot of individuals that are going to be coming through there. You said 177 parking lots in fact. We have large lots, but a lot of them don't have fences. You're going to have wanderers after they get to eating because it's open. So that you can walk between yards to yards. I would just hate to see someone just wandering through our yards. You don't mind a deer, but a human being walking through there, it would be acceptable.
Right. Thank you. Who would like to step forward? Just leave your name and address for the record.
Okay.
And you will have 5 minutes.
Okay, my name is Shanika Shaw. I'm at 29460 Lakewood. And I have a young daughter. And I live on Lakewood in Edwards, where I'm going. And it's been peaceful. I've been there, me and my parents been there for about 18, 19 years. And, I mean, we haven't had any disturbance. And I don't want this to be one of them. I have a young daughter, and I'm concerned about all the traffic, all the people coming through. Like, that's the last thing I need, with crime going on or anything else that's disturbing the peace of me and my family's home. Like, I have to worry about, if this restaurant is there, I'm going to be honest, if it's there, then I would have to get protection for me and my family. And that's something I don't want to do. So, but if it is there, then I'm willing to do that, to protect what was mine. So.
Thank you. Let's select to be heard. I'll go. That sounds like a mad dash for the budget.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jeff Moore. I reside at 29237 Lathrop Boulevard. I have been in the area for 12 years now. Bill and I are probably the last two that built our homes within this area. I built mine first, Bill built his second, and we really built in the area for the size of the lots, the tranquility of the area, the quietness of the area. Like everyone says, we have a very cohesive neighborhood here. Everyone's long-term residents here, and I think we've came even closer together with this issue on the table. Like everyone else has said, no one wants this in the area just because it's not so much as Golden Corral, because I personally like to eat there. I mean, so what better situation than someplace you like to have it close to your home? I think it's just the environment in which it would be located within the residential area is what disturbs us. Not that we wouldn't support the restaurant, it's just the proximity of where the restaurant would be located. So as everyone has said, we're in support of a building being in the area, it's just not this type of building being located at that corner. Unfortunately, the loss of the building from the fire was there. You know, that building never caused any problems for anybody. It was a very good building to the neighborhood for 60 years, I think it was there. And unfortunately, now we've got to make a decision for the right building to be there, not only for the city, but for the residents as well. That's it for me.
I love you people. Okay. we're like under a minute. Who's that? Come on.
My name is Kiran Patel, the Golden Corral this side. I reside at 43122 Crispin Court, Sterling Heights, Michigan. When this opportunity came up about a year ago, we wanted to be in Southfield, so here we are. My question to the council is the master plan. What does this master plan call for? Currently, the site is zone office. I don't know how the city officials, how things work, zoning, master plan changes. Whenever the master plan was changed, I'm sure a lot of brains were thrown in there. A lot of thoughts came in. I'm sure the residents came out that time. If they didn't, I believe the residents should have came out when this master plan was created. I don't know how long ago, a couple of years maybe. So that's all I wanted to say that about the master plan. If this restaurant doesn't go here, if it doesn't, zoning doesn't change, there's going to be something there. I guarantee you, for the next 20 years, there's not going to be an office building in this place. If it is, it's going to be 3, 4, 5, or 10-story office building. The other thing, as a lot of you already know that I do own and operate Westland. Talking to some of my guests over there, some of the neighbor concerns about noise, odors, garbage. I sat down with one of my guests and asked him, here's some of our neighbors' concerns. We're trying to build a restaurant in Southfield. Here it is. The neighbors' concerns are very valid. As being a regular guest, dining in our restaurant 3 times, 5 times, even 7 times, 7 days a week sometimes. Sometimes even coming for lunch and a dinner with their family. Tell me about your odors, the cooking odors, the garbage odors, the noise. They have wrote it right down here. They signed it with the address and phone numbers. Unfortunately, none of those residents are of Southfield. They are from Canton, Westland, Brownstown, Ypsilanti. They were just asked to do it. That's what they did. I wanted to present that since I had that in my hand.
Thank you very much. Are there any other persons that wish to speak to this? Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Figure out the process. You're saying it's only zoning. I understand that, sir, but also we're having a lot of emotions on what's going on here, and that's all I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
Do we speak or do we not? If we don't, we'll wait.
Okay, what I'd like to do is I'd like to hear from the residents, okay? I know that he stepped forward. If there's anything that
I just want to know what you want. Maybe that's all I want to do.
Yeah, I'll get you. Don't worry. We'll get you taken care of. Go right ahead.
Brittany Thompson Johnson, 17041 Edwards Avenue. To speak on, I know I'm not going to speak on traffic, I promise. To speak on the Golden Corral in Westland, it is
Well, what I'd like to do is focus on the zoning of this particular parcel.
Okay.
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 To a different, to a use that allows a restaurant.
Okay.
And many other things.
And many other things.
And that's where I want to get to. The zoning, the change of zoning, I took the time at work and read part of the zoning for B2. Also include, not only as a restaurant, you know, I don't want to think that we're taking it personally against Golden Corral, the company. A lot of my neighbors like the restaurant. I've personally never been, don't like the Bays. But there's a restaurant that's at the end of Edwards that has not been in use for several years, that has not been occupied. That's an option. Just, you know, if the commission has looked at different options for the restaurant as opposed to rezoning completely. And if I read this correctly, with the B2 zone change, that introduces the option of private clubs or lodges. I believe I read theaters, assembly halls. Not saying they could fit there, but these are the options. Once you're rezoned, this is the entire other issue that will come up, not could, but will come up. Assembly halls, concert halls, open air retail. I I believe it was theaters, arcades, which all pose a problem, not just a restaurant. All these options, if this goes through and is rezoned, will cause complete chaos at that corner at Edwards and Southfield, any of those options. So I'd like the commission to consider not rezoning and not approving it.
Thank you very much. Are there any other residents that would like to speak to this? Hearing none, I'd like to go ahead and give you an opportunity to come forward. Name and address for the record.
Larry Weiling, with Golden Corral Corporate, based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I can't change any votes here if I can state some facts. If I had a situation like this on the table, you had 47 or 80 people that didn't want it to happen, to me, they would be here tonight, not 8, 10, or 12 here. That's just my opinion. Talk about what we can do corporately. We said in the beginning that we will do whatever the city wants to do to make this work. I met with the mayor yesterday, or 2 days ago. You know, if it's a higher retaining wall, if it's plants, if it's no lights in the back of the parking lot, whatever you want us to do, we will do. We're not going to just walk away and say this is the way it's going to be. You know, there are 11 homes within 300 feet. I understand that, you know, that their homes are further away, but this is going to be something on the corner, like Karen said. It could be an office building, it could be whatever it could be. If we feel like we can be good neighbors here, we feel like that we can give this community a good 125 jobs, good tax income, just what Michigan needs, and we just think it's the place for us to want to put a restaurant. But like you said, if we don't pass through this process, then we'll never get to the next.
Well,
So,
for our purposes, you can
yes,
still move forward to the...
I understand. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other members of the community that would like to speak to this matter that have not yet spoken? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public portion of this meeting. Planner.
I'd like to try to address some of the issues that were raised, and again, it's always challenging when we're considering a rezoning, when we also have a site plan that's stuck in our mind. But I think as Mr. Bell had said, and one of the residents has said, we need to consider all of the potential uses in the zoning district that's being considered. There's approximately seven areas that we consider when we consider rezoning request. First of all, is it consistent with the master plan? And that's one that's weighted pretty heavy. And the city went through a master plan amendment in 2008 and was adopted on April 13th of 2009. So it's still a valid master plan. And I have indicated the sub-area. The entire corridor between 12 and 13 was listed for mixed uses. But in this specific sub-area, and specifically in the area of Edwards, local mixed-use potential redevelopment sites. And in other areas, they looked at large-scale, office, residential. But in this particular area, the planners at the time, the commissioners, and the public foresaw that there was going to be a change in the trend, and they looked at more local uses. So it is consistent with the master plan. We look at existing office service uses, and I'm going to take a minute and read these into the record because it's important that we understand what's currently permitted under OS. Under uses permitted in OS include executive, administrative, and professional offices, which was what the building was. Medical offices, including clinics and medical laboratories. Facilities for human care, such as hospitals, sanitariums, convalescent and nursing homes. Banks and similar financial institutions. Libraries and government office buildings and public utility offices, but not including storage yards or post offices. Private social or fraternal clubs or lodges. Churches and related facilities. public or private schools, colleges for general or vocational education, nursery schools, photographic studios, interior decorating studios, funeral homes, establishments which perform personal service on the premises such as beauty parlors and barber shops, veterinary clinics and hospitals provide all activities are conducted within a totally enclosed building, and accessory building or uses customarily incidental to the above permitted uses. Those are permitted by right currently by OS. Any of those uses could be built outright. Then, there are also additional uses permitted subject to special approval, and those uses include pharmacies and prescription centers when located in or near a medical office, medical clinics, hospitals, convalescent or nursing homes, private or public athletic clubs or health spas when conducted within a completely enclosed building, office and drafting supplies, reproduction and duplicating facilities or other complementary office services, but not print shop, office warehousing when storage or warehousing of goods or products does not exceed 60% of the usable area, buildings in excess of 2 stories or 25 feet, but not in excess of 3 stories or 35 feet, and then there's some standards based on size, automobile leasing and rental offices, and then there are certain standards, residential structures converted to or used for non-residential purposes, and then there's some standards that are required, uses that are related and reasonably necessary or convenient for the satisfactory of any office service district, self-storage facilities may be permitted under special use, and any restaurant approved by the City Council under this section, and this is prior to the effective date of the zoning amendment. So all of those uses are currently permitted under OS. Then, the next thing that we consider are proposed uses under the requested rezoning, which has been modified to B2. And these are the uses, and I would ask the Commission to consider all of these uses. They use the hit by the bus scenario. This developer could get hit by the bus or something could change, and once it's been rezoned, any of these uses could go in. Medical offices and clinics, banks and similar financial institutions, libraries and government office buildings and public utility offices, but not including storage yards, post offices, private clubs or lodges, nursery schools and daycare centers, photographic studios and interior decorating studios, establishment which perform a variety of personal services, stores of a generally recognized retail nature, restaurants and carry-out restaurants when attached to or located within a shopping center complex, and accessory structures. Those would be permitted if the B2 were to go forward. And additional uses permitted subject to special approval include theaters, assembly halls, concert halls, and similar places of assembly when conducted completely within an enclosed building, open-air retail sales of plant materials, lawn furniture, and garden supplies, arcades with a minimum of 100 gross square feet of floor area per machine, all interior, hotels and motels, and freestanding restaurants and carry-out restaurants, but excluding drive-in and fast food restaurants. The fourth item that we consider are environmental issues. Are there any significant wetlands or woodlands on the site to be preserved? And in this case, no. We also look at market conditions. There is a saturation of office uses. There's been a downturn in the economy, and in this particular case, the market would dictate some other type of use being proposed for the subject site. Traffic issues is another one that's considered. I've passed out a memo dated July 19, 2011. I met with the city traffic engineer regarding these issues, had a discussion with him, and he provided this memo for your consideration, and I submitted as part of the record. In summary, he felt that the changes that were being proposed to the subject site plan would help alleviate some of the existing concerns. I have offered to meet with the neighborhood, community policing, and the traffic engineer to look at the big picture at some future date. And then finally, we look at impact to adjacent uses, and we look at site plan issues and whether or not they can be mitigated. So when we consider a rezoning, we do a thorough analysis of all of the permitted uses in the requested district, and we look at all of these other areas when we make our recommendation. And with that,
If I could ask you a quick question.
Sure.
On your facts there. In the current zoning, office service, what would be the maximum height that would be allowed, either with just the zoning or with special use?
it's,
I think I heard you
I
say.
believe I just looked at it. The standard height is 25 feet, but there is an exception where it can go up to 35 feet under certain circumstances.
Okay.
So that would be a
That
three and a half story.
That could be granted by the city council
That's
without
correct.
a waiver.
That's correct. Thank you.
Having closed the public portion of the meeting, I turn it back to the commissioners who want to speak to this particular item first. Seymour?
I deliberated on this issue many hours. And I included all of the things that I found commendable with the developer's proposed site plan and use of the property, and also considered many of the conditions that attach the property relative to the use of a neighborhood being adjacent to such a activity as this restaurant. I gave many favorable viewpoints, and I chose to suggest that at least for this particular use, there's really no major objection that I have except for noise issues. And the noise issues would be profound for a long period of time, every day, 7 days a week, lasting well into the evening hours. And I concluded that I must vote against this zoning. I'm not enamored with the master plan concept. Many errors were made in the preparation of the master plan by the people who proposed it. I don't necessarily say that I agree with everything they did. This is one situation where they threw something together. It strikes me as a wonderful idea if nothing else existed in the environment to disrupt the concept of having a more intensive use of this property. But I go by the old book and the good old boy concept that when our forefathers developed this zoning for this area with the major residential development for an entire mile to the east of it, they intended something very important, and that is that there be a transition zoning between the activities on Southfield Road and the residential development. And so they placed a very minimal intensive use on the property. I have no problem with the fact that we're giving up an opportunity to put some land into good use for the benefit of the entire community. Everyone I know would love to have this restaurant in the community, but that's to the disregard of the residents who live next door. And I can't accept the fact that we're going to put such an intensive use for the long hours every day of the week in everybody's backyard, so to speak. I even mentioned in my letter about the fact that there's a pancake house on 10 Mile Road that doesn't have anywhere near the depth of lot. It's a very shallow lot. You know, all the lots on 10 Mile Road are probably no more than 120 to 140 feet deep, maybe 150 feet. And yet there's a pancake house there that's a restaurant. It's a family-type restaurant. The only thing is they close every day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And apparently, they live at peace with the neighborhood, and nobody's concerned about them being there because, one, they have an only access off 10 Mile Road. Number two, while they open early every morning around 6, 7 o'clock, there isn't a lot of traffic there in the morning. And the fact that by 3 o'clock the place is empty means that the neighbors have peace and quiet through most of the afternoon and evening hours of their existence behind the restaurant. Apparently, it works. It can work. But it won't work if you're going to have noise going on until 9, 10 o'clock at night, and who knows how late. I understand the dynamics of their hours, but that's not relative. 9, 10 o'clock at night, there should be peace in the neighborhood, and there won't be. And so I have to oppose this rezoning for the reasons given for this particular use, and I wouldn't personally approve any rezoning until I knew what kind of use was going in there, because if you wanted a B2 use, there are other B2 uses that possibly would be totally acceptable, because they're not running the long hours and you don't have all this traffic activity that's perpetual throughout the evening hours. You know, it's not just the number of car spaces there, the 160 or 50 spaces. You probably will turn over spaces every hour from 5 o'clock in the evening until 10 o'clock at night. There could be, each hour could be a different shift, so you could have close to 800 cars showing up at this place in the evening. That's a lot of traffic. Mention motorcycles, mention all kinds of people who come to family restaurants. They can come in groups. I just find that in weighing it down, what's spoken out of my letter, incorporate all my comments and I'm having that peace.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment?
To the chair, I need some clarification because I'm torn with this. My thing will get into the site thing yesterday because I spent a lot of time in the area today. But to me, and again, just to the planning commission, something's going to be put in that area. I know that. Maybe I took my notes wrong. We're looking at rezoning that to B2, which has some stipulations. If that stayed at B3, am I understanding that?
Right now it's office service.
Okay, yeah, right, B3. But am I understanding that someone could put a theater there? A hospital? I mean, maybe I wrote these damn wrong. Did
you ask the question about B3 or B2?
Well, I'm saying, we're looking at, okay,
The existing use right now is
it's
office
office
service.
Office service.
Right.
So under office services, he listed things that they could put there now, even if we
Right.
don't rezone.
Right.
So I'm thinking about the next, again, I live there. I live at 175550 Edmond. So I'm saying, if we don't rezone this thing, did I take these notes wrong, that someone could come in there with an office space and put a theater there, a hospital, or something of that nature?
Well, medical facilities and hospitals and veterinary clinics and pharmacies and facilities for acute
Yeah, I looked at data.
sanatorium homes, convalescent nursing homes, yes, they are.
Convalescent nursing home.
Yeah.
Those are all permitted.
Yeah, and I guess the reason I'm...
Private social fraternal clubs and lodges, I don't
There you
think
go.
either specifically
Okay.
in this case, but
Okay.
in
social club or something. See, the reason I looked at that, I mean, from my point, is that I'm saying, say we don't, I don't do this, and someone come along and want something on that property, will it be more devastating to me at 17555 to have an establishment there that to be open and a different clientele than having establishment there that I think has gone 125% to try to accommodate me. With someone else coming there with the same understanding to try to help me, or if they say, hey, we got the property there, we'll do what we want to do. Okay, that was my understanding. I can't talk about the other stuff until we get to the site plan. But I just want to clarify what could go there, even if we don't give them the rezoning. So I'm clear.
Fair enough. Anybody else wishing to speak to this?
I just want to say, as far as the rezoning, I don't think there's that much difference between the office service and going through the business. You can still get a bad business with office service as opposed to getting a bad business at the B3 or B2. So that's not real. I think we should concentrate on the zoning itself and not really the business right now, but we still can get a bad business with office service. I think by changing the zoning, I think it gives us more flexibility to possibly do something with the property in the future and not have an empty piece of land sitting there for the next 5 or 10 years. We want to increase property value. That's not the way to do it, by having property sitting vacant for 5, 10 years on the corner of your block. But that's my opinion.
Are there any other members that wish to speak?
I think that as far as development goes, and what we're seeing is trends here in Michigan, office space. I think we have tons of office space in Southfield. Going along with the master plan, I think that B2 fits into the zoning of the master plan. In order to encourage development and growth in the city, I think that you have to make sites available for development and, create situations where people might want to build in your city. I think a lot of the people, the majority of people in Southfield would probably like to see businesses come in Southfield grow. In this case, not in my backyard, there's a certain particular development. Maybe it's not the best thing for a handful of people, but the city as a whole and the community, I think that I would support a rezoning of this property.
Yes, one of the main things I'd like to point out is that there already is a restaurant within close proximity, in fact, more than one restaurant within close proximity of some of the people on Lakeland Boulevard. The Big Boy Restaurant and the Strip Center directly behind it, which also has at least one restaurant in it, or did have the last time I was in that area. And to my knowledge, I have not heard complaint one from a single resident anywhere about that aspect of it. And not even discounting the fact that you've got an entire massive strip mall in addition to the Big Boy and the little strip center adjacent to it. But the former Farmer Jack shopping center area, which is directly adjacent to Lakeland Boulevard. I'm very concerned about the neighborhood and any properties that abut the neighborhood. But this area was discussed at length in the process of going through our master plan and revising it. And if Southfield is going to keep up with modern day world and not become desolate and a place where nobody wants to live, we've got to move forward. And when Southfield was initiated over 50 years ago, we were a bedroom community, and practically a bedroom community, period. We didn't have a downtown, and we still don't have a downtown, because we were developed as a bedroom community. We are no longer a bedroom community. And for people to think we are, it's only because you live here. my house is a bedroom community, my neighborhood is a bedroom community, but Southfield is not a bedroom community. And if we can't appreciate that and like where we live and what Southfield has become and wants to become, then we need to find a bedroom community if that's what we want to live in. Because I like what Southfield is and what it's become. I like the evolution of Southfield. And practically every person over the past 2 study sessions that we've had that spoke about the proposed restaurant, one of the first things they said was that they liked Golden Corral. And but I don't want it in my backyard. And I agree with you. I don't want it in my backyard either. But the fact is, that's why I didn't buy a house on a through street. Yes, it's a residential street, but it's a through street. And that's why I didn't buy a house there. I'd love to have one of those large lots. I would just dearly love to have it. But I don't want it if I've got to put up with the traffic that's going to be on a through street. The only other thing I need to say is I certainly would have appreciated getting these things in writing before the meeting, so I had a chance to actually read it. When I'm at a meeting, I have to pay attention to what's being said. I haven't had time to read your cover letters, and so I'm assuming it says what you wanted to say, but I don't know what that is. I've heard it referred to, and I've heard the fact of 18 signatures, 44 signatures, 47 signatures. I haven't seen those either. I needed those over the weekend so I could review these materials. That means something to me, and I asked for them at the last study session. And I get it at the meeting. I'm sorry, I just don't have time to read these things, including the letter from one of our commissioners that is going to be in the record, but I haven't read it. I need this material so I can study. I study these materials thoroughly before I come to a meeting. And so I'm at least mentally prepared for what I think is the situation. And I don't make up my mind until I get to the meeting and hear the public's hearing. The public hearing part of it is to get additional information that may make me change my mind. But I have not heard anything that could convince me that this rezoning is not going to be good for the city. And it's up to us as city officials and as residents to ensure that it doesn't become a bad thing. We have to keep working at it diligently. I've been doing this type of thing as a volunteer. I don't get paid a thing for this. I've been for over 30 years in Southfield, and I still enjoy doing it because I feel that I'm making a contribution to the residents and businesses of Southfield. And so I will be supporting the rezoning on this.
Can I make a comment?
None at this time. I've had a chance to balance this out, and I've had some of the concerns that Mr. Mandel has raised in his letter. And I know it sounds like splitting hairs, but this is a matter of deciding what the zoning should be for this particular parcel. Knowing the business environment in the city of Southfield, office service will guarantee for the next 5 years, if not longer, that no office is going to go in there. And as Commissioner Culpepper has said, other things other than office will go there. And some of those other things will have intense use. I like the idea of broadening the use under the B2. I like the idea of giving us more options under the B2 than we have under office service. I like the idea that this can provide greater attractive qualities to potential property either developers or otherwise, that want to utilize this property. So for this purpose, I'm in favor of the rezoning to B2, which I think it gives us a greater tool to market the city. And as far as I'm concerned, the B2 zoning is the right tool for this, because I think as the planner had said, if this project were to be approved, and if this project, for whatever reason, could not be concluded, we now have greater opportunities to expand this site than we otherwise would have. And so I think it's prudent for us to take this first step and move this to B2. Are there any other commissioners that wish to speak? Seeing none?
We need to hear from the
Yeah, I'll read my
your
recommendation. Planning Department recommends favorable consideration of ZR 1311, the rezoning request of Dorchin Martin Associates on behalf of the owner, Corral of Tri-County Inc., Sidwell parcel 2412-302-005, property located at 29350 Southfield Road on the east side of Southfield Road at Edwards Ave, in Section 12 of the city for the following reasons. 1, the proposed rezoning will be in accordance with the Southfield Comprehensive Master Plan that indicates North Southfield Road sub-area local business potential for this parcel. 2, the proposed rezoning to B2 Planned Business District will allow the petitioner to redevelop the property with new land uses compatible with the abutting existing development and in accordance with the Comprehensive Master Plan, and the proposed rezoning will not have an adverse effect upon any of the adjacent zonings or land uses.
Thank you. Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I would move for approval, favorable consideration of ZR 1311, the rezoning request of Dorchin Martin and Associates on behalf of the owner.
I would like to second it.
We've got a motion and a second. I think a roll call vote is required here. Madam Secretary?
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Commissioner Haysham,
Yes.
Commissioner Huntington,
Yes.
Commissioner Liza,
Yes.
and Commissioner Mandel,
No.
and Commissioner Culbertson.
Yes.
There is a majority in favor of moving this rezoning, and the motion is carried. Item number 5, Mr. Planner, the actual site plan.
I'll just do an introduction, and again, just for the citizens on the rezoning, it is a recommendation to City Council. There'll still be an opportunity to attend public hearing and make the comments on the rezoning request. This is just a recommending body, and the final decision will be made at the City Council. But with regard to the site plan and special use request, petitioner Dorchin Martin Associates, as we've talked about, the present zoning is office service, with the rezoning request to B2 planned business. And the site has a frontage of 280 feet on Southfield Road, a depth of 431 feet, and the area is approximately 2.77 acres. Special use and site plan review request of Dorchin Martin Associates on behalf of the owner, Corral of Tri-County Inc., for the construction of a 12,050 gross square foot Golden Corral restaurant with associated parking. Property is located at 29350 Southfield Road on the east side of Southfield Road at Edwards Ave, lots 118 and 119 of Bedford Villas number 2, Sidwell parcel 2412-302-005, section 12, city of Southfield, Oakland County, state of Michigan. Parking required is 149, parking provided is 177. Landscape required is 3,925 square feet, provided is 4,172 square feet. The building height provided is 26 feet, and setbacks are front yard 25 feet, provided 62 33.5 feet. The north side required is 37.3 feet, provided is 53.51. The south side is 37.3 feet, provided 135.28. And the rear yard required is 15-foot setback, provided 192.67 feet. With that, I would like to invite Mr. Dorchin to come up with any of his professionals to go through the specifics of the site plan. A number of items have been previously addressed at our study sessions, and I would like to ask you to address each one of those as outlined in your letter, and then to add any additional comments that you have at this time.
Thank you.
I have a couple of boards to put them up in the...
Read the whole thing. You gotta change the tape, so you can move
Good
these
timing.
boards.
Okay.
You want some help there?
Okay. Okay.
Let's do this one here.
Sure, I was thinking it was gonna be...
Sam, what's the other one?
Okay.
This was the one close to,
It's similar to that.
At the appropriate time, you can bring those forward. And just hold them up here.
Great, we got
Oh, yeah, this thing is shock-proof. It's not, it's the otter box. They do pretty good.
Good evening, all. Sam Dorchin again.
Hi, Sam.
29895 Greenfield. No, I haven't moved. My wife is wondering if I've moved or not. Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't at the last meeting, but my associate Tim Kuhn was here and took excellent notes. But first, let me go over some of these things just so that we're clear on what we have. This is the Golden Corral footprint. We propose traffic to come in on Southfield, and we've landscaped this area. We've provided a bioswale here. We've provided much-needed landscaping along Edwards. We've removed the drives, two of the drives that the office building had. And what you see here as the trees, these are the existing trees that are on the other side of the wall, and we've agreed to raise the wall where it steps down, according to the ordinance, steps down 2 feet for a number of lengths, and we're going to raise it to 8 feet, or to the 6-foot height. You'll see on the last page of that presentation that I handed out that vegetation, I think there's one more page here. Yes. Okay, that will show you the shielding that the neighbors have from noise, light during the summer months. We assume that there's nobody out in the winter time. During the growing season, these trees, and the picture will show it, will do a lot to provide privacy, noise abatement, and any light that might you feel might leak into the adjacent residential areas. As far as the cooking food odors go, and that seems to be a pretty large point of contention. The cooking odors
rotting food products in your dumpster. It's explained in this particular letter. Perhaps Larry can go into it further.
Larry with Golden Corral Corporate,
Larry what?
Larry Weiland with Golden Corral Corporate out of Raleigh. We went through last week, we showed the pictures of the compactors where all the food was totally contained. We talked about assuring that when the compactor is pulled, that if there was some debris to fall, that we'd have it taken care of. We had the pest control company here, we discussed about rodent control, about how our building is sealed tight, everything is inside. We talked about those kinds of issues. I think we got a brand new building, state of the art. I mean, it's a whole different world than where we were even 9 years ago from Westland. It's totally built differently. It's just well built, wealthy piece of business.
With that, I can continue. The schematic that was shown of how no food is ever exposed to the air from the building. It goes into the enclosed container, the dumpster.
And then the other part is that Captive Air, who is the company we use to do our odor control, our hood system. Your city was familiar with Captive Air and knew their kind of work and felt like they were pretty happy with what Trixie sent to your city planner as far as pulling out the aromas and keeping them in the system. That was also brought up too.
So we've covered the rodent control, and what we're trying to do here is cover these points one by one. The traffic concern, again, seems to be, it's interesting, I had a long talk with Billy Parrish before the first study meeting. We're a lot alike in the things that we like and don't like. I understand his personal feelings in this particular situation. His lot and the location of his house came from along one of the large lots being split in half, and while his house wasn't the last one being built, it was the one being built next to the office site. The traffic situation, though, is an enigma. It can all be solved. It can all be resolved with the closing of Edwards, but the residents don't want that. At least that was their expression of desire at the first meeting. I'm not sure what happened at the second meeting, but so with that in mind, with them wanting to keep it open, then our desire was to make it as safe as possible. We got direction from the planning department, from the traffic department, and concessions from the owner, who is willing to use this as strictly a westbound in, westbound out. If the neighbors want to come out and continue going west on Edwards, there's a configuration that we used in that driveway. We used it at a daycare center on 10 Mile Road also to keep people heading west as a matter of coincidence, heading west and not allowing them to turn left onto 10 Mile Road across a busy street. That's what this configuration is supposed to do. We obviously don't want to close off the bank site. The bank doesn't want to close off the bank drive. So Edwards has to stay open. We wouldn't have any problem if Edwards was closed from here to here. And so we think that we've done quite a lot to resolve the traffic situation. The hours of operation have been discussed. I don't know that we have to discuss it any further, but for those of you who would like to understand what the photometrics are, it's the second from the last page.
Can I get a copy of that? The document that everyone's looking at, is it available for?
Sure,
Do you have a copy
here
of
you
it?
The photometrics will show that at the rear property line, in fact, adjacent to, and I call you Billy, but that's how you introduce yourself to me, so, you'll see that the foot candle level is 0 at the property line. And it goes from 0 to 0.5, till we get to the parking level, and we have city requirements that we have to respond to here for safety and security. Obviously, you want to have lighting.
If I could, excuse me, what does 0 to 0.5 mean?
That it's a lighting level.
Which means what? Give me an
The
example.
Foot candles it's not at the ground level, I believe it's 1 foot or 2 feet above the ground.
Okay, and a foot candle would mean, what kind of light bulb would be shining in my face?
Well, if you know what parking lots look like at night, at the end of the lighting level, at 1/10 of a foot candle, you could barely read a newspaper.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's what I needed.
That's pretty much what that indicates.
Pardon me,
Yes.
could you repeat the foot candle achievement that you're?
It's on there.
Pardon?
It's
It's on the second
on
to last
your-
page there.
Second from the last page. And the very last page, where the wall is shown, you'll see one house is visible. It is Mr. Parrish's garage. What we have altered this picture to show the rest of the wall raised to the 6-foot height, and a few trees planted. We planted them in the parking lot. However, that will be landscaped, a landscape area. We didn't change it. Those trees won't grow in the parking lot. I believe that pretty much answers all the questions except the noise control. Yes, it will probably be noisy. I've spent a lot of time since that first meeting. It may sound anal, but in parking lots, in restaurants, busy ones. I haven't been to a Golden Corral. I find the concept really interesting, and I'd like to try it as soon as it's built, hopefully. But I find, sometimes people do hang around and talk, but basically, they come to the restaurant, they park, they go in, if there's a table, they eat, and they leave.
I had something that was on the front of
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think also this Larry, the Golden Corral Corporation, you'll find that our customer, the buffet customer, people that love Golden Corral, I've been Golden Corral since I'm 21, 55 years old, that's 34 years, one company. Our customers are early people. You know, we're not TG Fries, we're not Hooters, we're not Outback. Most of our restaurants, by 9 o'clock, you can take a machine gun and hit nobody. Buffet people just eat early. They really do. And like I said in our first meeting, the policy of Golden Corral is any car that's in the back of the lot is moved to the front of the lot before 10 o'clock, before 9 o'clock. If we close at 9 or 9:30, all his employees park to the front of the building. But we are an early customer. And when's the last time you got out of a movie at 10 o'clock and said, let's go eat a buffet? You said, let's go get a hamburger, fries, and shake, but not a buffet. And you look at all of our trends, I had to print off hourly readings. I went to his restaurant last week and looked at his hourly readings. And you'll just see where it just it starts here, and just like 7:30, 8 o'clock, it just dies off. I'm just trying to remind you what we talked about last week.
Thank you. I think we've covered all of the problems that we've had. However, one thing that I'd like to point out is I've examined these photographs, and these aerial photographs, and I thought they'd be interesting for all of you and for whoever might be in the audience. You can see, and I would go to the, well, let's stay on the first page. You'll see the building before it burned, the office building before it burned. You'll see parking, very little landscaping. In fact, they parked into the right-of-way, something like 25 or 30 feet into the right-of-way. We're back 12 and a half feet from the right-of-way. That's just like 42 feet more of landscaping. The same thing at the rear. They parked right up to the rear, right up to the wall, separating the residential from the parking area. We have a 50-foot bioswale, and a tremendous amount of landscaping, that wasn't there before. You won't see, Ari, what was his last name? Leibowitz. Was concerned. I would wager that the occupants of his office buildings, and I know the people who own the next one north of that, the Butler, Keith Butler, would welcome a change from the big boy. It's not going to put the big boy out of business, obviously. Big boy has a lot of strawberry pie and other things, but I think they'll find that the new restaurant would do really quite well. The one across the street, I don't believe, is there anymore, the Japanese restaurant. And I've tried every restaurant within a 2-mile radius of my office. So, and looking at some other sensitive areas, there was, you all just approved, it might have, well, not you new guys weren't on at that time, but the Wendy's and the Horton restaurant that drive-through on Greenfield and 12 Mile Road.
Yes, we did.
Which is
It's a nightmare.
Yes, it really is. I don't know. Did you? Well, there's residential pretty close to that. And Sweet Lorraine's has access right out onto Edwards, coincidentally, and as an east-west street, and that's a pretty busy restaurant, and that's open pretty late at night. I don't hear anybody complaining about that.
I just went there last week.
Actually, it doesn't exit on the Edwards.
Yes, it does.
There's
There's access to it. It has access through it.
Yeah, but there's a parking lot for the hardware store and the dollar store in there, and you can't go through into the Sweet Lorraine.
Oh, yes, you can.
No, yes, you can.
Yes, you can. I've done
I
it
did
many
the last
times.
time I was there.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. And I'd like to point out one more very sensitive area. Olga's on the south side of 12 Mile Road is about 25 feet from a house adjacent to it. There's just an alley separating it.
Right.
I don't know the hours of all of these. I do know that Sweet Lorraine's is open pretty late at night, and as to the,
And they also serve alcohol too.
yes.
Pretty nice people.
The next page, if I can drag this out until you get so tired you'll just vote for it.
Don't kill yourself doing that.
Really, you may be counterproductive.
Is it? Okay, well, what I was just gonna point out that Billy's house is 200 feet away. All the rest of the houses themselves are at least 400 feet or more. Granted, from the property, they're a little closer, but we put a scale on them and we have this, and now I leave you with it.
All right, thank you.
I'm available, and so is Larry and Karen to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One more?
No, I thought you had a question.
No,
I got a comment. You mentioned the wall,
Yes.
and can I comment?
direct question.
Okay,
Please go to the microphone.
Yes.
all right. Okay, there was Billy Parrish, 17550 Edwards Avenue. And regarding the construction of, well, this wall, by the way, some of these trees are dead that are over here, and you can see them in the other photograph versus the drawing. But the question came up last meeting, or first meeting, as you mentioned, about closing off Edwards. And by the way, I wasn't opposed to closing off Edwards. I pointed out that it had been closed off before, and that the city, the fire department, police department said that for emergency access, they opened it back up, because originally it was a two-way street, and just as twice as wide as it is right here, and then it was closed down somewhere before I moved, because I've been there for 11 years, well, 12 years this year, and then it was turned into a one-way street and narrowed as it is right here. So it used to be at least as wide as my finger down.
What was the point you were making?
Well, the point I was making was, I wasn't opposed to a wall going across there and blocking that street off. So, but you made the comment that the residents were opposed to it.
There were residents that spoke against it.
Were there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if this is going to go forward, the issue of the traffic flow would be resolved by a wall.
We're going to see to it that a greater traffic review is undertaken before the city council meeting.
Okay, great. That's my concern.
Great.
All right. Thanks.
Are there any questions from members of the commission? Nope. Two more.
I really think that for this gentleman's protection, you should plant some upright arborvitae.
Okay, go ahead and, Seymour, can we, I mean, if you want to offer him some advice with regard to, if you want to offer him some advice with regard to this, I want to talk about the site plan itself. Okay. Well,
You need to speak more or less for the microphone.
yeah.
Well, I'm suggesting
We need the
that-
council to hear what you're saying.
that some upright arborvitae should be planted on the parking side of the detention pond in a tight row in order to add a little more protection of sound and light and everything else on the one house on Edwards that's going to be most impacted by the activities going on in the parking lot.
Through the chair.
I also want,
They did add some additional evergreen trees from the week before, and,
well, I didn't see that.
yeah, we will, we have to do a final landscape review, and I'm going to require additional evergreen trees to be green there. So your point well taken, but they did try to address that.
And just as a point of information, when you have a full moon out at night, on a clear night, the foot candle level of the full moon is 1 foot candle.
So a full moon on a clear night.
A full moon on a clear night will deliver 1 foot candle. You can virtually read by it, but
Pretty blinding, isn't it?
but it's pretty, I mean, it's present enough light, but that's the intensity of 1 foot candle.
Okay, very much. Good. That's a good visual.
So anything less than 1 foot candle is great, and anything more than that is not as great.
Are there any other comments? Stan?
Yes.
Well,
Write down my notes so I don't forget it. It doesn't take me but about 5 seconds to get my thoughts. If I could, Mr. Parrish, I want to address specifically an issue that I'm aware of, at least slightly. The closing of Edwards, or the proposed closing of Edwards, or whatever you want to call it. I was around and very active at the time that a group on Edwards petitioned the city to close it and or one-lane it, or do something about the massive problem that was going on there about 15 years ago, or 20 maybe.
Okay.
In fact, I was at all the meetings to do with the city council and planning commission and so forth on that issue. And as well as the fact that the fire department and police department are the ones that said, no, you can't block it off. But I don't know if the technology wasn't as good at the time, but I do know that there are ways to block off a road. You can't put up a wall, of course, but there are ways to block a road with grass and have concrete or stone or something underneath it to where a fire truck can go over for in an emergency situation. or police cars or whatever, if they need to get down that road, they can go down it. But regular passenger cars, it's blocked off for them. And you wouldn't block it just for 75 feet. You'd block it all the way from where it's currently one way to Lathrop, or to your house, I guess it would be. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I addressed the police and fire about closing another street, one that goes on to Evergreen. And if they are not opposed to it because they have trucks that can make the turn, they have other ways into the neighborhood now, and there's what they call a hammerhead configuration of the street, and we went through that on, that one on Evergreen.
Right. No, I happened to be speaking to someone today, this morning, as a matter of fact, about this situation, and I wanted to bring it up tonight, because I know that city council is going to rake the petitioner over the coals as bad or worse than we ever have. And so I just want it to be known, not only by the residents, but by the petitioners also, that it is possible to block that road off and not inhibit the police and fire from getting in there in emergency situations. But the bad part of it is, I was over there this afternoon about 6:15, just before coming over here. I went up Lathrop and turned west, or tried to turn west on Edwards, going the right way, correct way on Edwards. But I had to wait because there was somebody going the wrong way.
That happens frequently.
It was a resident on your street. I did have the license plate number, but I've forgotten it now, but I can describe it to you. It was a Jeep Grand Cherokee that was bright blue, with a female driver. But anyway, the only point that I wanted to make there is that to me, you've got a traffic problem.
That's right.
But for a residential street anyway. So there is a traffic problem, particularly with violations of going on a one-way street the wrong way, and/or speeding. I didn't see any speeding, but if that's happening, and I don't doubt you a bit that it's happening, it's a straight street. If I were on it and I was in a hurry, I would be one of them, most likely.
We even get 18
We're
wheelers on
gonna
it.
have a conversation at a public hearing. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, that I know it happens, but this isn't causing it. You've got a problem that needs to be solved, but I don't think this is going to exacerbate the problem that already exists. Not to any degree that can't be solved. And by closing that off from where it's currently one way, which is at the entrance or the exit for the bank to get out, from that point to the east is where it's one way, and to block it off at that point, and to block it all the way to the end of their property line would, it seems to me, at least solve a lot of your traffic problems. Another issue that I brought up a concern of mine about entrance into the entrance and exit from the site on Southfield Road, because I know how the traffic is on Southfield Road. I live about 500 yards south of this property, on the south side of 12 Mile, or not on the south side, but south of 12 Mile anyway, in that subdivision. And so I'm up and down Southfield Road very frequently. Very seldom go very far south on Southfield Road because it gets to where you can't because of traffic. But one of the things that a new business that we would be approving should not do is unduly interfere with the traffic flow on another property, which this will at least, I'm not going to say it's going to interfere, but it will at least be competition for more travel and turning on Southfield Road. But at the time I was making this comment, I had forgotten that the one-way went all the way up to the exit out of America Bank. But I would strongly encourage for the petitioner to seriously consider widening the one entrance exit on Edwards, from 30 to 40 feet. Keep the island in there as far as separating, left-hand turns and turning in, because people, once they find that they've got a problem trying to turn, coming south on Southfield Road, trying to make a left-hand turn into this, restaurant, they're going to say, well, why don't I just go down to the traffic light, and I've got plenty of room, go to the traffic light and go in on the Edwards entrance.
Well, if Mr. would, it's kind of a domino effect. If you could block off Edwards, we could come in off of Edwards, and get the
You know,
site.
let's do this. Let's go ahead and do this. I don't want this to be a negotiation here.
No,
I'm not trying to, I'm merely offered a suggestion.
Okay,
That's all
so
I
that's
did.
something that maybe you can take up with the site plan committee?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Great.
There were numerous things that I said during study sessions, and the reasons that I was supporting the zoning a while ago apply to this site plan specifically also, as far as, I believe that it's not going to unduly, interfere with the residential neighborhood adjacent to it, or in the area. It will be a change, no question about it. Anything is going to be a change for the neighborhood, but it will not unduly have a negative aspect on the neighborhood. But I do think it will be a very positive aspect for the city of Southfield, as far as having what appears to be a great family restaurant. I've never been to one, so I can't speak personally, but everybody seems to think they're a great restaurant for some reason. But I do know that we need more good family-style restaurants in Southfield, and I will be supporting it.
Are there any other? Okay, well, let me just weigh in. I've been to the Golden Corral in Macomb. I haven't been to the one in Westland. And I may just go out there just to give it a try. I know my kids will love it this weekend maybe. And I like the idea of a restaurant on Southfield Road that is a buffet-style restaurant. They had a Chinese buffet that didn't do well in that center to the north.
Bad food.
Yeah, bad food. Yeah, and they had a buffet restaurant on 12 Mile Road, that hometown buffet, that closed because of the redevelopment on Telegraph and 12 Mile. And they had a hometown buffet up in Pontiac that's closed because we went there and they moved to Macomb County.
When?
On Telegraph, yeah. And so I think this would be a great addition to this city. My only concern is its proximity to the adjacent house. But if you really look at it, it's over 200 feet away from that residence. Traffic issues are born out of an existing situation, and I don't think this will exacerbate it. The odor is to be expected out of any restaurant. I mean, it can't go away, you have to vent. But the technology that's been presented, in my view, addresses that to the fullest extent technically possible. I think it would be an added benefit to the overall business community out there with all the offices that are there. I think it adds an added opportunity for lunches and even early dinners. And I'm thrilled that it's coming here so I don't have to drive quite so far away. Although I see the balance, and I have to balance it out in the end, I I don't believe this restaurant is going to be the Armageddon that is being presented as. And I appreciate the neighbors' concerns with regard to this. Honestly, I think it's going to be an added benefit. I think you're going to see a lot of the residents going down Edwards to get to, I'll have to block it off, going down Edwards to go to this restaurant. So, with that, we've got a motion, correct?
I'd like to read my recommendation.
Oh, okay. No, okay, I'm done. So, if there's a recommendation, go ahead, put it on the record.
Planning Department recommends favorable consideration of the special use and site plan review request of Dorchin Martin Associates on behalf of the owner, Corral of Tri-County Inc., for the construction of a 12,050 gross square foot Golden Corral restaurant with associated parking. Site plan dated July 11, 2011, and received by the Planning Department on July 12, 2011, with the following conditions. Condition number 1, approval of ZR 1311 by City Council to rezone the parcel from OS Office Service to B2 Planned Business. Condition 2, the site plan approval, including any attached landscape plan, does not constitute landscape plan approval. A final detailed landscape plan must be submitted to the Planning Department and be approved prior to issuance of any building permit. Under that item, I'm going to request that additional evergreen screening be located closer to 17550 Edwards. Item number 3, the petitioners to provide a sprinkler system for all landscape areas to encourage preservation of plant materials. Condition number 4, the petitioners to execute a perpetual maintenance agreement for the landscape and parking areas, both on the site and in the right-of-way, which includes maintenance of the stormwater detention system. Condition number 5, the petitioner is to implement the recommendations made by the Southfield Police Department's Crime Prevention Bureau regarding site security. Condition number 6, the building is to be constructed in accordance with submitted elevations shown on sheets A5 and A6. Condition number 7, approval of the site plan and/or building elevations represented herein does not constitute nor guarantee approval for signage. Separate approval and sign permits must be obtained from the building department for any proposed sign. Item number 8, all special approval standards of section 5.159 of the zoning ordinance be satisfied. I further add, and this is part of those special use requirements that you asked me to consider, that a traffic impact study be provided by an independent traffic engineer prior to council action. As part of that traffic impact study, recommendations with regards to traffic calming along Edwards may be made. And I will coordinate with the developer to have that submitted by a certified independent traffic engineer. And if the commission so forwards the site plan, I will hold this going forward to council until I'm satisfied that the traffic impact study has been provided. This recommendation is made for the following reasons. The submitted special use and site plan conditions recommended by the Planning Department and Planning Commission will be in accord with the spirit and purpose of the Southfield zoning ordinance. The proposed development would provide a reasonable arrangement of the use of the property and provides adequate vehicular traffic circulation as reviewed and recommended by the city traffic engineer. The site plan does show that a proper relationship exists between a major thoroughfare, any proposed pedestrian pathways, service roads, driveways, and parking areas, thus encouraging pedestrian and vehicular safety. All the development features, including the principal building, open space, pedestrian pathways, service roads, driveways, and parking areas, are so located and related so as to minimize the possibility of any adverse effect on the adjacent property.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Bell.
Yes, in regards to condition number 8, would it be possible to read what those requirements are, the standards of approval? Because I know we had a discussion about this several months ago on a special use issue. We said we were going to start discussing this more thoroughly when we had both the special use and site plan.
There are 6 items that are to be considered as special use conditions. Item 1 is the proposed use or uses must be of such size and character that it will be in harmony with the appropriate orderly development of the planned business district. The location, size, intensity, and periods of operation of any such proposed use must be designed to eliminate any possible nuisance likely to emanate therefrom, which might be adverse to occupants of any of the nearby permitted uses. The proposed use must be in accord with the spirit and purpose of the chapter and not be inconsistent with or contrary to the objectives sought to be accomplished by this chapter and the principles of sound planning. Item D, which I refer to as the proposed use is of such character that vehicular traffic generated will not have an adverse effect or be detrimental to the surrounding land use or adjacent thoroughfares. The proposed use is of such character, intensity, and arrange on the site so as to eliminate any adverse effects resulting from noise, dust, dirt, glare, odor, or fumes. And the proposed use or change in use will not be adverse to the promotion of the health, safety, and welfare of the community as a whole. And I believe those have all been addressed, with the exception, I think there's still some outstanding issues with traffic, and that's why I'm requesting a traffic impact statement.
Okay, sir.
I'm just addressing this to you. I walked the area today, and I had one question that I needed to ask, and the Woodfield Office Park. My question was, had anyone been in to have any concerns about that? And I guess my question is, the gentleman that came in that had the questions, all of those are answered. Is there any way that we could make sure that he gets a copy, because he was concerned about the noise and the odor? The young man came, he hadn't been to any meetings at all, but he's from the Woodfield Office Park.
To the north.
To the north.
Right,
And he said he had some concerns, he had never been here.
Yeah.
But the concerns were about the odor and whatever.
I'll take it to him personally.
And you know, so if we could get those to him, I think again, that alleviates the concerns and answers the questions that our neighbors have. Okay?
Good, thank you. Okay, open to a motion?
I would move for,
Did I already do it?
favorable consideration of EP 1229, slash SP, 1282 of the site plan, special use and site plan review request of Dorson Martin Associates on behalf of the owner, Corral of Tri-County Inc., as presented with the condition statement.
I'd like to second it.
We have a valid motion and a second. If you want to go around the table, I think we should go around the table.
No, everyone wants to go.
Well, I think we should just, let's do a roll call vote.
Let's do a roll call vote. Roll call. Yeah.
Commissioner Culpepper,
Favorable, yes.
and Commissioner Mandel,
Yes.
Commissioner Law,
Yes.
Commissioner Bishop,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter,
Yes.
Yeah. We have a majority in favor. And
Unanimous.
okay.
It looks better than mine.
All right, it's unanimous. And we're going to move forward with this. Thank you very much for your time. And look forward to hearing whatever the outcome is.
We think if you have one, we can do, I'll go with it.
Your hard work just started, John.
I'll slice it twice. Slice it twice a week is pretty good.
Yeah.
I know what the site plan.
All right, item number E. No. We have to get all the way to H. We're only on E. Hey, you know what? I lied.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Bell, take care of that.
He wants to end it for me.
There is no new business.
I thought I could have that.
Maybe you can, that's up to him to do it.
Meeting still in progress here.
He doesn't want it? Take it. It's all yours.
Thank you.
There is no new business at this time.